What is going on there, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from the different comic book companies. Today, we're going to do a full story. A full story is me taking a bunch of my old videos and combining them together. The reason why is because a bunch of my videos tell an overarching story for a team or a certain character. Today, we're going to do a full story that's covering the Ultimate Avengers team. Ultimate Marvel is an alternate universe that started in the year 2000 and went on till 2015. For a short period of time, you have Mark Millar, a writer who helped build the Ultimate Marvel Universe, give us 3 miniseries that gave us the Avengers in this universe. Because in this universe, in the beginning, the team was called the Ultimates. Well, after a certain event called Ultimatum, S.H.I.E.L.D. made a second team, a Black Ops team, the Avengers. And here are their stories in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. So to begin this story, we pick up with Nick Fury meeting up with Hawkeye. And this is our first time picking up with some of the Ultimates besides Iron Man after Ultimatum. Now remember that Nick Fury was kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and was left behind in the Squadron Supreme dimension. And you can watch the Ultimate Power video to understand what happened there. Except we pick up with Nick Fury meeting up with Hawkeye and seeing what S.H.I.E.L.D. has become since Carol Danvers has taken over S.H.I.E.L.D. Remember, in this universe, Carol Danvers is not Ms. Marvel nor Captain Marvel. Except the reason why Hawkeye called up Nick Fury because Hawkeye wants to tell Nick Fury that Captain America knows about the Red Skull. And the story jumps back a day and we pick up with Captain America, Hawkeye helping S.H.I.E.L.D. with the mission, where they are going after AIM, which is also known as Advanced Idea Mechanics, a group whose main goal is to steal a bunch of advanced level technology from around the world. And we come to find out that right now they are trying to steal technology from the Baxter building since the Fantastic Four are technically no more. And so you have Captain America and Hawkeye here to stop them, and they were supposed to be working with Iron Man, except we come to find out that Iron Man has become an alcoholic. Well, he already was, except now he is drinking more than he used to because of the death of Wolverine. Remember that in Ultimatum, Wolverine died, but Magneto made Cyclops and Iron Man use their forms of weapons to kill Wolverine. Since then, it has been messing with Iron Man's mind. But getting back over to the main point of this story, we see that AIM is trying to steal tech and Captain America and Hawkeye are here. Except that is when Captain America gets into one of the helicopters and runs into the Red Skull. And this is our first appearance of the Red Skull in this universe. Something people were wondering, when in the world would we get the Red Skull in the Ultimate Marvel Universe? And this leads to the Red Skull beating down on Captain America, which is different to see because the Red Skull was not really a fighter in the main Marvel Universe. He was more of a strategist, and he was the brains behind a lot of big things that happen in the main Marvel Universe. But here he is, a fighter, and he beats down on Captain America like no other. And then he pulls in Captain America to tell him a secret. And after he tells Captain America the secret, he pushes Captain America out of the helicopter and leaves. Now, of course, Hawkeye is able to pull off some crazy moves to save Captain America before he crashes to his death. Where this is the biggest moment of the book. Well, one of them, because Mark Millar does a lot of things in this book. But this is where we learn that Red Skull told Captain America that apparently The Red Skull in this universe is the son of Captain America. This is where the story shifts back to 1945, with Captain America putting on his outfit and spending some time with Gale. As you know, Gale was Captain America's lover before he was frozen in time back in World War II. Where we see that the last night they saw each other, they spent that night doing the dirty. Where of course we know what this means for Gale after that night, because the story does shift over 4 months later, where Gale is meeting up with the people from the government who tells her that she is pregnant. And they figure out that the son of Captain America, which is the Red Skull, has the super soldier serum inside of him as well, and they took the baby from her. The story goes to the present day, but maybe a couple hours before Hawkeye and Nick Fury conversation, where we pick up with Captain America and Hawkeye flying back home after their failed mission. Where out of nowhere, you have Captain America start beating down on some of the SHIELD agents and Hawkeye to escape, because now he wants to know more about the Red Skull. The Red Skull is a son he never knew about, and now he wants to know. And so Captain America leaves, and that is it for Captain America for now. This is where the story shifts over to the present moment, where we pick up with Carol Danvers, Hawkeye, and Nick Fury having a conversation, because Hawkeye and Nick Fury knew about the Red Skull. Carol Danvers did not, which honestly is surprising since now she's the main person in charge of SHIELD. But it shows that Nick Fury has secrets all over the place. But explains that basically after Captain America died, or supposedly died, the government took the baby of Captain America to test him to see if the Red Skull actually has any traces of the super soldier serum inside of him. Where of course it shows that he does. And this begins the downfall for everything, because we learn that the army was training him and he was actually just using them to help him get physically fit and learn about fighting. To the point he was ready to leave the facility they had him locked up in. And we learn he was a tactical genius because he killed over 100 soldiers after he decided that he had enough of being their puppet. And you have Nick Fury tell us that before he left, he cut his skin off to give him the Red Skull face. Now, before the second chapter ends, we actually do get two things happen. The first is that Captain America breaks into one of the computer rooms of SHIELD to look up more information on the Red Skull, and he finds something, and we don't know what he found, but he leaves. Then the chapter closes on us being introduced to another Stark, except we learn that this is the older brother of Tony Stark, Gregory Stark. But before we can learn more about Gregory Stark, the story does shift over to Jim Rhodes, who we know him as War Machine. Now, we have not seen Jim Rhodes since the Ultimate Iron Man 2 storyline. After that story, Marvel really never tried to put him in any present day storylines, and so we had no idea what Jim Rhodes has been up to really until now. We learned that he works for the army, using the War Machine armor for missions and killing people if he has to. That's really it, but we see that he has been called in by Nick Fury and SHIELD because he has been called in to form the Avengers team. Now the story shifts over to Gregory Stark, and he is being greeted by Hawkeye and Nick Fury. We learn from Gregory Stark that apparently he feels like that he should have inherited the company and not Tony from their father, and he hates Tony for it. And Gregory also made his own company as well, but Nick Fury tells us that Gregory Stark is smarter than Tony Stark actually, but Nick called Gregory to launch Project Avengers. Then we pick up with Pedro Lescove, who will be the new Wasp. Well, her code name will be the Red Wasp. Now, this is not our first time meeting her because she was in Ultimates 2. where she was helping the evil organization called the Liberators, villains from different countries. Now her code name was Swarm, where she had the ability to control insects. Well, in Ultimates 2, it seemed that she was killed by the original Wasp, but we come to find out that she lived. S.H.I.E.L.D. took her body in and were able to save her life, but she has a chip where she has to obey S.H.I.E.L.D.'s orders, but she's going to join the new Avengers team. Now getting back over to Gregory Stark, we see him taking Nick Fury and Hawkeye to a lower level, where we see that Gregory has been working on different projects for this Avengers team. For example, we see that he made a clone of the Hulk, where this Hulk will still have the strength of the Hulk but the intelligence of Bruce Banner, and codename will be Nerd Hulk. But before we leave this place, we see a character locked up in a container who is in a Spider-Man outfit, and his code name is the Spider, and we have no idea who this is. But we pick up with the Avengers team out on their first mission together. We see them getting ready to capture Captain America. Now we learn that there was another member added to the team. This is the new Black Widow, Monica Chang, and we are going to learn more about her very soon. But we know that she used to date Nick Fury. But the point is that while the team is trying to get ready to take down Captain America, that is when we learn that Captain America was prepared for them and surprise attacked them and began the process to take each member of this team out. Now, they did not send in Nerd Hulk nor the Spider because the Spider is too dangerous, but we see Captain America take out Red Wasp, Hawkeye, and the new Black Widow in a matter of seconds. And so you have S.H.I.E.L.D. send in their first big gun, which is War Machine. And this leads to a funny scene where Captain America thinks Jim Rhodes is just a random dude until he changes into his War Machine outfit. And so we get War Machine versus Captain America in this section right here. Now, War Machine is not someone who is really concerned about innocent bystanders. If he has a mission, he will go out of his way to complete his mission. Now, Captain America knows this, but he knows that Jim Rhodes is not a complete heartless person. And so you have Captain America go to a school that is full of kindergarten kids. And War Machine can't fire a single missile because he could possibly kill an innocent child. And so you have Captain America take him out very quickly, and that is it for War Machine for now. But we then see the new Black Widow try her hand one more time against Captain America, where it ends up with her thinking she has the edge. Except Captain America took one of the arms of War Machine to use it against the Black Widow. And so Black Widow is taken out in a matter of a few pages a second time around. And so finally you have Nerd Hulk step in, the last big gun for this Avengers team. And this newly formed Hulk should be able to take down Captain America. Except you have Captain America point out that with them combining the two sides of the Hulk, they took away the edge the Hulk had, because the brain of Bruce Banner would always be going to hold the Hulk side back from letting loose. And so the Hulk gets taken out by Captain America. Now it does seem like this Avengers team is about to lose to Captain America, except you have Black Widow use the shield tech that is inside the Red Wasp to control her powers, which again is to control insects, and then leads to Captain America falling into the river, which is the perfect setup for War Machine to send a shock into the river to knock out Captain America, and now he is captured. Now this new Avengers team has another mission they must complete, which is to go after AIM and the Red Skull, because we learned that AIM did not steal technology from the Baxter building earlier in the book, except they stole the blueprints to how to build the Cosmic Cube. Remember that in this universe, Reed Richards was the one who made the Cosmic Cube. With that being said, when you have an evil organization that has a group of intelligent people, they can figure out how to make the cube. And so now the Avengers have to chase down AIM. This is where things get crazier, because we then jump over to the Red Skull when he is checking up to see how the process of the cube is coming, and they tell him how the cosmic cube is almost done. Except this is the moment where we learn that someone hired the Red Skull to come out of retirement. And that is very important. But we see that the Red Skull kills off the lead person in charge of making the cosmic cube. And we learn his goal is to take the cosmic cube for himself, which is honestly a very dangerous thing. And we know that since the Red Skull in the main Marvel universe used his cosmic cube for a lot of crazy things. Now we do learn a little bit about how the Red Skull affected the Red Wasp's life, but with the YouTube borderline rules on things, I don't know if I can show it. But long story short, Red Skull killed her family. Now you have Nick Fury tell us that the Red Skull was born in the 1940s, and so in the 1960s, he was in his 20s. And one of the Red Skull's biggest moments was when he assassinated JF Kennedy. But getting back to the main point of the story, some time has passed and the new Avengers team has arrived in Alaska, and that is where the base of AIM is at, and so they are here to get the cube. Except this is where things get a little bit crazy, because when the Avengers team get closer to the base, they find a pile of dead bodies on the ground, that someone killed every single member of AIM on this base. And when Hawkeye asks who in the world did all this, of course you have the Red Skull walk in and claim his work. Now when the Red Skull revealed himself, you have the team just unload all their bullets on the Red Skull to just quickly get rid of him, except none of the bullets worked on him. And then the whole building blows up, but the Avengers team was teleported out of the base before it blew up. And this is where we learn that the Red Skull is using the Cosmic Cube. That where the Avengers team thought they had more time before the Cosmic Cube would be done, they miscalculated the time when the Red Skull will be done with the Cosmic Cube. And so now we have our second Cosmic Cube in this universe. And this is huge because right now it is in the hands of the Red Skull. And so you have the Avengers really trying to take down the Red Skull. And this team was not around when the original Cosmic Cube was around when Thanos had it. Some members were there and they were being mind controlled by Thanos, but none of them helped the Fantastic Four take down Thanos when he had the Cosmic Cube. And so they have no idea how powerful the Cosmic Cube is until right now. And so they're throwing their bullets, their missiles, and anything else they can throw at the Red Skull. But of course, nothing is working because this is the Red Skull with the Cosmic Cube now. Now, picking up with Captain America, we learned that the Avengers team left him to be watched by a bunch of regular level folks who work for S.H.I.E.L.D. in France. And we learned that Captain America wanted to be captured by the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. The reason why is because he knew that sooner or later the Avengers team would go after the Red Skull themselves. And so he placed some nanotech robots that can be traced all over the Avengers. And so you have Captain America beat down on these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and get ready to go after his son, because he now knows where his son is located at. Honestly, this is one of my favorite moments of the book, because you have Captain America about to get ready to get into a new developed jet, a jet that has not been tested out yet, but can get him from France to Alaska in a matter of minutes. And Nick Fury is trying to talk Captain America out of going after his son, where you have Captain America ask permission to speak and tells Nick Fury to shut up, and he flies away. But getting back over to the Avengers, they are trying their best to stop the Red Skull, and they are trying to throw everything at him, but of course it is not working. Now, you do have Gregory Stark come in and say, listen, Nick, it's time to use our secret weapon. And we come to find out that apparently Jim Rhodes has a nuke in the back of his armor. And so their idea right now is to go ahead and hit the button and use the nuke. Now, Nick Fury does not want to use the nuke at all. He's kind of like, listen, we can find another way around this. But while the Avengers are fighting against the Red Skull, you still have Captain America in that new developed jet flying his way from France to Alaska, and he is almost there. He's probably like 3 to 4 minutes away, and he tells Nick Fury, do not press that button. I'll be there soon. Now, this does lead into another cool moment of the book, because you do have Nerd Hulk finally step in, because all of the other members of the Avengers were yelling at him to step in because he has the strength of the Hulk. Yes, he does have the brains of Bruce Banner, but he still has the strength of the Hulk. And so to the other members of the Avengers, they're telling him, dude, can you please help us out? And so you do have Nerd Hulk step in. Now, this leads into one of the coolest moments of the book, because you see Nerd Hulk kind of get a little bit more savage-like, where the Bruce Banner side is slowly going away, and he's getting stronger and stronger, and it does seem like he'll be able to stop the Red Skull, but of course, the Red Skull has the Cosmic Cube, and so he was just playing around with the Hulk, and he throws the Hulk away, and he tells the Avengers, listen, that was cool and all, but I was playing around. You then proceed to the Red Skull telling the Avengers that he knew about the nuke that was in the back part of War Machine's armor, and so you have him get rid of that nuke. And for the Avengers, they think this is the end for them, because that nuke was their last weapon to use against the Red Skull. But out of nowhere, we do see that Captain America was able to get there in time, and his goal is to fly the jet right into the Red Skull. But of course, the Red Skull has the Cosmic Cube, and he was able to push the jet away from him. And so you have Captain America crash the jet somewhere else. And again, it does seem like the end for the Avengers. But you do have Steve Rogers as Hawkeye to give him the exact location of the Red Skull, because Hawkeye never misses and Captain America never loses, because he wants the exact location of the Red Skull, because while the Red Skull is not looking, Captain America was able to fire one shot from the jet that plunges through the Red Skull body, and the Cosmic Cube falls out of the Red Skull hands, and that is the end of the Red Skull. Now we do pick up a few hours after the battle, where we do pick up with Captain America, Nick Fury, and Gale. And remember, Gale was the ex-lover of Captain America before he presumably died back in World War II. And also the mother of the Red Skull. And so Nick Fury brought her here so she can say goodbye to her son, the son that was taken away from her all those years ago from the American government. Now, once she does leave, you do have Nick Fury ask Red Skull, what did they talk about? And the Red Skull told Nick Fury that he told his mother that his goal with the Cosmic Cube was not to rule the world or anything. His goal was to change time. He wanted to rewrite history, because he wanted to say to his mother that his goal was to use the Cosmic Cube to change time to the point where his father never did get frozen in time. Instead, his father did came home, and they were able to live a life as a family. That was the one thing he always wanted. But then you have Nick Fury kill off the Red Skull, Nick Fury asked Red Wasp to kill off Red Skull to get revenge for what he did to her family, and the Red Skull is now dead. And to finally wrap up this story, we do pick up with Gregory Stark and Nick Fury, and we come to find out that Carol Danvers did give Nick Fury his own place in the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, where he's going to run his little Avengers team from this small base right here. But we do come to find out that Nick Fury was the one who hired the Red Skull to come out of retirement. That really Nick Fury was the one behind all of this, because Nick Fury's goal from this point on is to get his job back, to be the one in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so he did that because he knew that if he brought the Red Skull out, Carol Danvers would have no choice to let Nick Fury use his Avengers project to go after the Red Skull. And so this was just step one of Nick Fury trying to get his old job back. So this is the first story in the Ultimate Marvel Universe that really put the Punisher in the spotlight. Because before this, Punisher was really a joke in some previous stories as a way to move the story forward for writers. And so the first few pages, we watch the Punisher just wreak havoc against a bunch of monsters. We learn that the Punisher is going around the world killing 200 people because there's a guy in Russia named the Red Hammer who is a kingpin in Russia, but is trying to make a move in the US. Now, while the Punisher is killing all of these people, we learn very quickly that Ultimate Punisher origin is somewhat similar to his main Marvel Universe counterpart. Also, with him killing all of these monsters across the nation, Red Hammer decides he needs to come to the US to deal with the Punisher. Now we think we see this Red Hammer guy here in the US, and it seems like he could be planning to find the Punisher to get rid of him. Except that is when we see that the Punisher is pretending to be one of Red Hammer's men to get close to him and kill him. The problem is that this is not Red Hammer. This is actually Captain America in disguise and was sent here by S.H.I.E.L.D. to capture Punisher, since this man has gone around killing 200 people. And Red Hammer was sent back to Russia as soon as he arrived in the country. But you have Captain America beat down the Punisher, and the Punisher is captured by Captain America. Now, of course, the Punisher does not go to jail. Instead, we see that he is being recruited by Nick Fury in his Avengers team. The Ultimate is the team that is well known to the world. The Avengers are the Black Ops team. Now, Nick Fury tells the Punisher that his goal is to have someone on the team to be their Captain America in a way. And they want the Punisher to be that person, but no new code name. Really, it is a way for Marvel to put him in a new Captain America outfit. Now, someone asked Nick Fury, where is Jane Rhodes, who is also known as War Machine? That is when Nick Fury tells the team that he is off to recruit the original Hulk, not Bruce Banner Hulk, someone who came before Bruce Banner Hulk. And so you had a story shift over to South America, where we pick up with this dude who is built like a Hulk, except we see that he is not a savage like Bruce Banner Hulk, where it seems that he is someone who is a kingpin of sort. He has a mansion, girls everywhere, and guards with weapons. And these guys are not your usual kind of guards. And this is our first appearance of Tyrone Cash. We learned that Tyrone Cash was actually the mentor of Bruce Banner, and we learned this through a flashback where we see Bruce Banner is learning about how to recreate the super soldier serum, that they have one thing in common. They want to use the formula for themselves because they hate the way they look and how they act, hoping the serum will make them bigger and better looking, also make them not be socially awkward. Now you can put it together that Tyrone Cash took the drug himself, and it worked. He was able to make the Hulk formula where it did not lead into him turning into a savage monster. We see him in the present day being greeted by War Machine, and just like the Punisher, Nick Fury is trying to recruit Tyrone Cash for an important mission. Now we also learn that after Tyrone Cash took the formula and became the first kind of Hulk, he actually left his family and went on to be some kind of warlord or kingpin in South America. This leads into Tyrone and War Machine actually fighting against each other, and the fight is pretty epic. It leads to all of Tyrone Cash Island being destroyed. Almost everyone who was on the island is now dead. Now, at first, it does seem like a fair battle between the two of them, and War Machine is actually giving Tyrone a run for his money. Except at the end of the fight, we see that Tyrone Cash wins the fight and is about to kill War Machine until War Machine tells him that if he dies, S.H.I.E.L.D. will tell Tyrone's Cash family that he is still alive, and he does not want that. And so he stops attacking War Machine, and Tyrone is told about joining the Avengers. Now you have Nick Fury bring everyone in for this mission, which is Tyrone Cash, Hawkeye, Punisher, the new Black Widow, and War Machine. Everyone wants to know what is the mission and who was the one telling Nick Fury to take care of this problem. And Nick Fury tells them that it came from the Vice President, and they're going after Ultimate Ghost Rider. This is the first appearance of Ultimate Ghost Rider in this universe. Now you have Nick Fury explaining why the mission is to go after Ghost Rider, where we learn that Ghost Rider has been going around killing some random rich people. At first, this tells us that the people who died must be close to the Vice President in some way, that it made him tell Nick Fury to go after Ghost Rider. Now, Punisher is quick to tell Nick Fury no about going on to this mission. To him, these rich people dying most likely were crooked and should have been killed, and so he tries to walk away. But that is when you have the new Black Widow, aka Monica Chang, tell us that they put something into the Punisher that shocks him anytime he tries to disobey an order or tries to leave S.H.I.E.L.D. And this is the same thing they did with the Red Wasp, because she was a villain who was forced to be a good guy now. Punisher is being forced to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. They are hoping this will work to control the Punisher. But this leads into Tyrone Cash and War Machine going to the most recent crime scene to find out what happened here, where all they find are dead bodies in a house that was wrecked. And War Machine asks the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents if there was some kind of connection with the victims, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents tell Rhodey that they cannot find any connections at all between them. But what is crazy is that Ghost Rider left one survivor in the most recent attack, and Tyrone and Rhodey are confused why this one guy was left behind. And we see on his neck that he has a cross, meaning that the cross is a weakness to Ghost Rider. But the story shifts over to Hawkeye and the Punisher, waiting at a landing strip for a plane to land, because S.H.I.E.L.D. thinks this person who owns the plane is next. But this section is the beginning of building the bond between Hawkeye and the Punisher. The reason why I say that is because both of these men lost their families due to an attack, and they both went with the idea that all bad people should be killed no matter what the crime is. Now, before their bond can be built to a level where they can call each other brothers, that is when Ghost Rider appears at the landing strip. This is where we get to see how powerful the Ghost Rider is, because we see him on his bike and being able to jump off the ground of the landing strip, where he blows up the plane in the sky and grabs the person he was after. In just a blink of an eye, S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers fail to prevent him from grabbing the man on the plane, except you have Hawkeye fire a missile which blows Ghost Rider off his bike and leads into us about to see Ghost Rider fighting against S.H.I.E.L.D., Hawkeye, and the Punisher. This leads into the Punisher going in to fight against the Ghost Rider on his own, because the suit S.H.I.E.L.D. gave him gives him extra strength. And S.H.I.E.L.D. is hoping that the Punisher, who is a well-trained killer and now a suit that gives him an extra boost, will be able to take down the Ghost Rider. And at first, it may seem like the Punisher will be able to take down the Ghost Rider, except Ghost Rider is not your normal being on Earth, and he begins the process to beat down on the Punisher to the point the suit begins to fall apart. But that is when a cross is revealed, and it makes Ghost Rider leave and to see the Avengers another day. But the story reminds us that Gregory Stark is part of the team, but to remind us of some bad blood between some characters. For example, there is bad blood between Carol Danvers and Nick Fury, because Carol Danvers replaced Nick when he was kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and left in another dimension. The second example of bad blood comes from Gregory Stark and Tony Stark. We know that there is some bad blood between them because Gregory feels like he should have been the one to inherit the company from their father. But you had the story remind us about the Spider, this character who we have no idea about. The last thing we heard was that he is the clone of Spider-Man and Charles Xavier, but that was supposed to be a joke. We learned that he knows the origin of Ghost Rider, and he only tells Monica and Hawkeye in exchange for information. And so she tells us what happened between her and Nick Fury, that basically Nick Fury cheated on her with her friends and her family, which is wild. When the Spider gets the information he wanted, he goes on to tell us about the origin of Ghost Rider. We learned that this Ghost Rider is of course Johnny Blaze, but we learned that his origin is different from his main Marvel Universe counterpart. We learned that he had a girlfriend named Roxanne, and they traveled all over the world on his motorcycle, except one day he met a group of men who seemed nice at first, but the problem is that at the end of the night, they killed both Johnny Blaze and Roxanne. They cut Johnny Blaze's throat open as part of a ritual to be able to make deals with Mephisto so they can be successful in life. Once they die, their souls will be taken away by Mephisto. Now, they were able to get what they wanted, but Mephisto also made a deal with Johnny Blaze to become his Ghost Rider, and Johnny will be able to go after the men who killed him and Roxanne. But also, with Johnny Blaze taking this deal, Roxanne will be brought back to life. This is where we learn why the Vice President sent Nick Fury in the Avengers after Ghost Rider, where the Spider tells us that the Vice President was one of the people who took part in the ritual to make a deal with Mephisto, because the ritual was basically to make them very successful in life. And as you can see, he has become successful. He is the Vice President. Then the story jumps forward a couple hours, and you have the Avengers already there and getting set up around the White House, getting ready when the Ghost Rider does come here to make an attempt to kill the Vice President. But while the Avengers are outside the White House, inside the White House, you have the Vice President meeting up with Mephisto, where now you have Mephisto and the Vice President making a new deal. And the original deal was that everyone who took part of that ritual would give their soul to Mephisto once they die. And so now you have the Vice President taking on a new deal. This deal, of course, is to give something Johnny Blaze to fight. So we are not just getting one Ghost Rider in this book, we're about to get two Ghost Riders in this book, because this is what Mephisto wanted, to be honest. He wanted to put these two against each other, but he knew either way he would get what he always wanted, which is their souls. And so while you have everyone outside becoming somewhat friends, like Hawkeye and the Punisher, who are very similar to a degree, that is when at the front gate you have Johnny Blaze slowly turning into the Ghost Rider. Then out of nowhere you have this big explosion happen, and we see the Vice President has been turned into a new Ghost Rider. Now at first the Avengers think that this is the Ghost Rider that some of them met before and has already killed the Vice President. They don't know that this is the Vice President, but this leads into a battle with the Avengers and Ghost Rider. Monica Chang tries to go in first, and she's taken out very quickly. But then you have War Machine and Tyrone Cash jump into the battle, with them being the big guns. And you think that this fight is about to be wrapped up very quickly. They are throwing everything at the Ghost Rider, and it seems like that they're about to win this battle in a matter of seconds, except they come to realize that nothing is working on the Vice President Ghost Rider. And so we are watching the Vice President Ghost Rider just beat down the Avengers. But then you have Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider appear. That is when everyone realized that something is up with there now being two Ghost Riders. But Johnny Blaze is here to make a point that he is not here to play around, that he wants to kill the Vice President for everything he did to him and Roxanne back in the day. And this is going to be the end of it all. Now again, Johnny Blaze is beating down the Vice President Ghost Rider, which makes sense because this is the Vice President, first time being the Ghost Rider. And for Johnny, this is not his first time. He's been the Ghost Rider for a while now. But getting back to the fight where Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze is about to kill off the Vice President Ghost Rider. And you have S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers step in and blow him away with their weapons and stuff. Then they try to attack the other Ghost Rider to only end up being blown away as well by the Vice President Ghost Rider. But you have Tyrone Cash step in and we see him riding one of the Ghost Rider's bikes, which is honestly pretty cool to see. But this leads into another round of Tyrone Cash fighting against the Vice President Ghost Rider, where this fight is wrapped up very quickly because even though Tyrone Cash is classified as a Hulk, he is still not strong enough to stop a Ghost Rider. And so you have the Vice President Ghost Rider getting ready to kill Tyrone Cash, but Tyrone is saved by Johnny Blaze. Now you have Johnny Blaze take the Vice President into a nearby church. Remember, anything that has to do with God is a weakness for them when they're in their Ghost Rider form. And so they are quickly turned into their regular human form and begin to do battle between each other in the church, where at first it seemed like the Vice President was about to be killed by Johnny Blaze finally, only for us to see Johnny start to lose the battle and now he's about to be killed off by the Vice President. Luckily for him, the Punisher was there to shoot the Vice President away. Now the first shot was only in the shoulder, but of course you have the Punisher actually shoot the Vice President in the head as well, and so he is now killed off. But this leads into the Punisher talking about killing off Johnny as well, except Johnny reminds the Punisher that they are the same kind of person, meaning that they both lost their loved ones to an evil person, and so the Punisher let the Ghost Rider leave. Now you have Hawkeye ask the Punisher where in the world is Johnny Blaze at, and he tells Hawkeye that he let him go. Hawkeye is angry because their mission was to kill off Johnny Blaze or at least bring him in. And you have the Punisher tell him that he is doing a good thing killing off bad people. That part right there makes the Punisher, Hawkeye, and Ghost Rider alike. They all lost their family because of bad people. And they all turn to people who have been on a warpath to get rid of bad people. And so you have the Punisher ask Hawkeye to help him escape as well. He wants to know where the obedient chip is at. They put inside the Punisher, and Hawkeye punches the Punisher right in the face. The story closes on a few things happening, which the first is that we get an update on what is going to happen to Ghost Rider, where he and Mephisto are making a deal that as long as Ghost Rider brings souls to Mephisto, then Roxanne will stay alive, because in their last deal, when Johnny Blaze became Ghost Rider, part of the deal was that Mephisto will bring Roxanne back to life. So as long as Johnny Blaze keeps bringing souls to Mephisto, then Roxanne can stay alive again. Then we jump back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers, where you have Nick Fury yelling at Hawkeye for punching the Punisher in the face, because the obedient disc was put in the Punisher's third tooth on the left side. And so with the obedient disc gone, the Punisher was able to escape and go on with his life as the Punisher again. And so the story ends on that note, where the team really did not win anything at all, except them getting Tyrone Cash on their team. And this is where we So the way this story starts off, we pick up with the star of the book, which is Blade himself. But of course, Blade is with three girls, where he is telling them about what he does and how he has plans tonight to hunt down a certain person who is a vampire. It is a very interesting opening because these girls seem like they are starstruck for Blade, like he's an A-list hero when he's more like a B-list hero. But then he is greeted by a bunch of vampires who know that Blade is a half vampire person, where they come here to talk about the fact there is a new vampire king and he wants to make a deal with Blade. Now this is Blade, so of course Blade is not going to take no deal with the vampire. So he starts killing everyone and even kills off the girls he was with because they were vampires too. It is literally a slaughterhouse, but we see that one of the vampires is able to get away. Of course, you have Blade follow this vampire, where he does end up killing this vampire off at the very end. Now, there is a good reason why I'm focusing on this one vampire, because after Blade kills this one off, that is when you see someone is watching Blade, but in an old Iron Man armor. So someone was able to get their hands on Iron Man stuff. But then the story jumps over to Raymond Connor, the new Daredevil in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Now his origin is literally a carbon copy of Matt Murdock, where there was an accident and some chemicals that fell on his eyes, which blinded him, but his other senses were enhanced by the chemical. That is when he is greeted by none other than Stick himself. As we know, is the person who trained Daredevil to become the hero he was in both main Marvel and the Ultimate Marvel Universe as well. But Stick tells us and Raymond that Matt Murdock was part of this order to stop something. But with him dead, Raymond is going to be the new replacement. Except the problem is that on the first night Raymond was out as the new Daredevil and wearing the classic Daredevil outfit from the 1960s, well, he was looking for Stick. Except he finds Nerd Hulk actually biting down on Stick because somehow Nerd Hulk has turned into a vampire as well. We don't know how, but he turns Stick into one, and then we see a bunch of other vampires turn Raymond Connor into one as well. And so there goes the new Daredevil already. Of course, with that happening, you have Nick Fury call in the Avengers, but he only calls in Hawkeye and Monica Chang, who is the ex-wife of Nick Fury, where he tells the team that someone is taking out heroes in the city, but also someone just took out Nerd Hulk. Means that it is time for them to move out, except you have Captain America say that he is going to join the team as well. Now the story does jump back 24 hours ago, where we see Nerd Hulk visiting Captain America. He asks Captain America about leaving the Avengers and joining the Ultimates because the Avengers are more like a Black Ops team and the world does not know about them. When it comes to the Ultimates, they are well known and the heroes get the chance to be out and interact with the world. He hates being stuck inside the Triskelion, but Steve Rogers tells him no because he's a Hulk and the world is scared of the Hulk. Also the fact that Nerd Hulk can't fight either, and so he would not be a big help to the Ultimate. This leads to Nerd Hulk thinking that he is going to show Captain America that he can be okay in the public, that people will accept him when they see him out. But of course, when this man leaves the Triskelion and then goes into the city, of course people are confused about what in the world a Hulk is doing here. Also the fact that this man jumped out of the sky and this Hulk being able to talk, that is something that would freak anyone out. And this is proving the point of Captain America is right, that the world would not accept Nerd Hulk in the public. Of course, this is where we see this mysterious person in the Iron Man armor who is not Tony Stark come after Nerd Hulk. Now we learn that this is the one who's behind all of the attacks on the superheroes with the vampires, where of course we see this person tell his vampires to attack Nerd Hulk, and he helps them out with taking down Nerd Hulk, where the fight ends with Nerd Hulk turning into a vampire. And that is how Nerd Hulk was turned and being able to grab Raymond Connor in the present day to turn him into one. Now we get back to the present day and we pick up with Blade torturing a vampire for some information on who is the big mastermind behind all of the attacks with the vampires, where we learn that this person was someone who was recently bitten 3 weeks ago. Fast forward from that point to the present day, this man was able to get all of the big leagues of the vampires to come work under him as one big team. His goal is to then turn superheroes into vampires, and that will help him rule the world. But then we pick up with the Avengers team in the sewers, where they are using the tracker inside Nerd Hulk to help them figure out where he could be, Well, when they think they are closing in on him, that is when they are greeted by Raymond Connor, who's pretending to be injured. Where, of course, Steve Rogers falls for it and goes to see if Raymond is okay. Only for then all the lights to get knocked out. And just like in any scary story, that is when you have the heroes turn the lights back on to see that Captain America has been bitten. And when they look behind them, well, they see the same person in the Iron Man armor with a small army of vampires to bring down the Avengers right here in the sewers. Now, this looks like the Avengers are about to become dinner for this army of vampires, because you have them try to shoot the person in the Iron Man armor, only to have him deflect the bullets. But the person in the Iron Man armor was not expecting the fact there was a second team of regular S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to come in from behind them, plus a third team as well. So they know they have to escape. So you have our mysterious character tell Nerd Hulk to make a hole in the roof, and they head out the hole to fight the Avengers later on. The Avengers don't follow, so they can take Steve Rogers back to the hospital. And so you have the Avengers being able to get Captain America to the Triskelin hospital, and we see that Nick Fury is trying to keep information from Carol Danvers about what happened to Captain America. Remember, back in Avengers 1, that Monica Chang is a spy on the Avengers team for Carol Danvers, because she knows that Nick Fury wants his old job back. Except Nick Fury made sure that there is no way possible that any information about what Nick Fury is planning will get back to Carol Danvers. But while everyone is watching over Captain America, we see Blade is watching from the rooftop. But picking back up with our mysterious bad guy in the Iron Man armor, we see him talking to Nerd Hulk to figure out how in the world the Avengers were able to track him, where he uses the Iron Man armor to see that there is some kind of tracker inside the body of Nerd Hulk to keep an eye on him. Now you have our mysterious bad guy take the tracker out of Nerd Hulk's chest and destroy it. But we can see that there is some trust issues between our bad guy and Nerd Hulk. That Nerd Hulk could be planning something, and our mysterious character knows it too. But getting back over to the Triskelin, we see almost everyone is having a normal day there, just relaxing until one by one each person gets knocked out by something. This includes Hawkeye as well. The question is, what or who is knocking everyone out? We get the answer by seeing that Blade was the one who had knocked everyone out. But he came here to, well, kill off Captain America because Captain America was bitten, which means he could be a vampire now. We learned that Steve Rogers has been turned into a vampire because he stops Blade from killing him off, and it leads to the two of them having a quick fight, where Steve Rogers is able to overpower Blade very quickly. And the third chapter closes with Steve Rogers actually ending up biting Blade. Then we get this random like Twilight ripoff scene in the book, which is supposed to represent how all vampire teenage movies were like around this time period, where a human is able to make a vampire fall in love and stuff. But then in the middle of the scene, you have Blade chasing down the vampire that would be in the movie, letting us know that this is just Blade daydreaming. It was so random and crazy to see. I just had to mention about how this scene was in the book. But getting back to the moment where Captain America had just bitten Blade, we see Blade tell Captain America that biting him is not going to do anything, since Blade is already a half vampire person. And so you have Blade go ahead and shoot Captain America away. Except when he goes to kill Captain America, Monica Chang stops Blade by shooting him. And with Monica and Blade dealing with each other, that gives Steve Rogers the chance to escape. And then you have Monica Chang just go ahead and knock out Blade to hold him captive. But then a couple hours have passed by, and we see that S.H.I.E.L.D. has called in both Tony and Gregory Stark to figure out what could be taking down the superheroes in the city. This scene is more just having the two brothers argue with one another, but also to point out that S.H.I.E.L.D. and the heroes are trying to deny the fact that there could be a vampire problem in the city. but you have them ask Blade to explain what in the world is going on. This is where we learn who's behind all of the attacks, but also we learn the true origin of Daredevil, that there was this guy named Anthony who trained people like Stick, and of course Stick trained both Daredevils, that they were all meant to protect the Earth from vampires and other dark creatures, except one day someone was able to bite Anthony, which of course we know was only a couple weeks ago. Except he was able to organize the vampire community into believing that they should go after the heroes and then use the heroes to take over the world. But getting back over to Anthony and the rest of the vampires, we see that they are all right now gathered together, eating up to get ready for whatever Anthony has planned next for them. Now this is the point where you have Anthony tell Nerd Hulk that he knows that Nerd Hulk wants to become leader of the crew now. And so he actually challenges Nerd Hulk for the role of leadership of the vampires. Except with him doing that, you have Nerd Hulk kill him in one single punch, because Nerd Hulk has the combination of the powers of the Hulk and the powers of a vampire as well. Once the fight is all done, you have Captain America appear in the room because he is now a vampire, and with him being a vampire, he's going to join Nerd Hulk and the army of vampires as they get ready for their next big move. But we have to shift over to the character Perun or Perun. I'm gonna call him Perun. And I know a lot of you guys are wondering who in the world I'm talking about. Well, if you remember back in Ultimates 2, there was a team called the Liberators who had a bunch of villains who were evil counterparts to the Ultimates. Like Red Wasp, who we saw in Avengers 1, she was on that team to be the evil counterpart to the Wasp. Perun was the evil counterpart to Thor, where we find out that just like Red Wasp, Perun was taken in by S.H.I.E.L.D. and was put on the sideline until they needed him. Well, he just got called in to help with this vampire problem. Oh yeah, his hammer can teleport him and objects with him as well. And that is very important to remember. But you have Perun meet up with the rest of the Avengers, and so now he's part of the Avengers or part of the Ultimates team. I don't know because Tony Stark is there and Hawkeye is part of both teams, so technically you have both teams there. But you have Gregory Stark try to locate where the vampires' hideout is at, so the army of S.H.I.E.L.D. and heroes can finish them off. Except that is when he learns that the vampires are already inside the Triskelion, where we see Stick is now wearing the Iron Man armor and has taken out Tony. That is when we see outside that Nerd Hulk and the army of vampires are inside and they are beginning their attack against the Triskelion. And you have all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents trying their best to stop this army, but their weapons are barely working and they are being taken out very quickly. And so you have S.H.I.E.L.D. sending Perun because he is supposed to be just like Thor, with the tech to help him be like Thor. And so not truly on the same power level as Thor, but close enough. And you have Steve Rogers go and fight Perun on his own. Now this is how the 5th chapter closes, where you think that Perun could give them that edge, and he was actually being able to take on Captain America on his own for a while. Except you have Nerd Hulk come from behind and snap the neck of Perun. And so we do get the return of Perun, and this man is killed in literally about 18 pages later. And so you have Nerd Hulk just throw the dead body of Perun away and ask his vampire army where Nick Fury is at, because he wants to kill Nick Fury for Nick thinking that Nerd Hulk should not be out in public, where one of the giant men have been turned into a vampire and points out where Nick Fury is hiding at. But we also learn that Stick and Raymond Connor, who is the new Daredevil, but both of them are vampires now, where we see that after they had broke into the Triskelion and took care of Tony Stark, you had them go and find Blade, because Blade gives the Ultimates and the Avengers that edge against them, since Stick, Ray, and Blade were all working under Anthony to stop vampires before Anthony was turned into one. But outside, everything is falling apart for S.H.I.E.L.D. and their allies, where more and more people are being turned into vampires, and they are trying trying to find solutions on what they can do to slow this down, where you actually have one of the giant men kill off another giant man. But after that, Nerd Hulk rushes in so fast that he was able to grab Nick Fury before Hawkeye and Monica Chang were able to do anything at all. But getting back over to Blade, who was fighting against both Stick and the new Daredevil, we see that the fight is going nowhere. Literally, the fight is kind of going back and forth, where you have both sides talking some trash here and there. But at the end of the fight, well, you have Stick and Daredevil being able to knock out Blade. But then you have Mark Millar wrap up this story using his favorite character in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, which of course is Captain America, because we learn that Captain America's super soldier serum was able to burn out the vampire virus that was inside of him. And so now he is normal, but he grabs the hammer of Perun. And remember that the hammer actually has the capability to teleport not just the user of the hammer, it can also teleport objects around the user as long as he hits the ground with the hammer. And that is what he does. He slams down with the hammer and bam, they are teleported somewhere else. We come to find out that Captain America had teleported everyone in the Triskelion to Iran because in their country it is daytime, meaning that the sun is out, which of course burns and kills off all the vampires who were there. And so we had a new Daredevil, but he's now dead. We met Stick, but he's dead as well. We also had Nerd Hulk, who was the one who took the leadership role of the vampires. He is dead as well. We have a bunch of dead characters in this book, but the day is saved. Except at the end of the book, we have Gregory call in to tell everyone that they have another problem on their hands, which is the fact that Tony Stark was badly injured and the book closes on that. This leads into Ultimates versus Avengers, which is actually a tie-in to the death of Spider-Man. So the story begins with us seeing a random train just minding its business and heading down a certain train track, except one of the men who is controlling the train sees something. Of course, it is Thor's hammer, which Thor's hammer cannot move unless it is Thor moving it. And so of course, it leads to the train just being wrecked thanks to how strong Thor's hammer is. But we see some of the Ultimates are there for something that is on the train. Now we do see Captain America and Thor, but the question is, who are the other two people with them? But then the story jumps back 24 hours, where we pick up at the end of Ultimate Avengers 3. Remember that in that story, it was all about vampires, and to save the day, Captain America used Perun's hammer to teleport the Triskelion to Iran because it was sunny and to kill off the vampires. Now, this section was not used as a way to remind us what happened in the previous story. This section was used to introduce us to Scott Lang in this universe, who is one of the many giant men that was made after Hank Pym. But Scott Lang is actually a scientist in this universe, and we're going to see a whole lot more of him from now on. But also, we have to remember that at the end of Ultimates Avengers 3, that the team found out that Tony Stark was badly injured. The big question at the end of that story was, will he survive? And so we pick up with Thor using his powers to teleport Tony Stark from Iran to the States to help save his life. But we pick up with Monica Chang, who in this universe again is the ex-wife of Nick Fury, but we learn that she is really on both the Avengers and the Ultimates team. She works secretly for Carol Danvers, hoping to find out what Nick Fury plans because Carol Danvers does not trust Nick Fury. We know that Nick Fury plans to regain control of S.H.I.E.L.D., but for right now, he is leading the Avengers team, which is the Black Ops team. But this section is more of her kind of telling us what happened in Ultimate Avengers 3. But also we find out she and Nick Fury has a son. I don't think Nick knows about the child just yet, but the biggest thing is that now everyone knows that Tony Stark has a brain tumor. The reason why I make that last sentence a big deal, Tony Stark only told Captain America and Thor about the brain tumor back in, I want to say, the original Ultimates run. But with him being in the hospital, doctors told everyone about it, including his girlfriend, Carol Danvers. Matter of fact, his own brother, Gregory Stark, didn't even know about the tumor either, to show that Tony did not want anyone to know about the brain tumor at all. Now you have Carol Danvers calling a meeting, and this meeting is about how a new prototype super soldier has been stolen from one of Gregory Stark's facilities. Now Scott Lang is going to be joining the team, but this is big because remember, in some of our past stories, including Ultimate Captain America, that the super soldier plans are being worked on by other countries, and if they fall into the wrong hands, who knows what will happen. And so the team is sent out to Bulgaria to deal with retrieving the super soldier prototype. Now you also have Carol Danvers mention that someone on the inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. is making money to exchange the plans for the super soldier program to other countries. And the question is, who though? And so you have Nick Fury team try to figure that out. So jumping back to the beginning of this story where we saw the Ultimates stopping a train, we saw Captain America, Thor, we now know Scott Lang was there as well, and Monica Chang. But the train we saw earlier, the people who stole the prototype super soldier were using the train to transport it. And so after the train wreck we saw earlier, we see the Ultimates go down to the wreck, where they're confronted by the super soldier prototype. Except the man who was the prototype dies in front of the Ultimates because the experiment went wrong. After the man dies, you have Captain America as a scientist. What is going on here? Where he tells Captain America that they were transporting the prototype to China because China hates being behind America in the super genetic race. Except the big thing is that they were using S.H.I.E.L.D. transporters to deliver it to China, meaning that someone on the inside is helping China. And the scientist said it was Nick Fury. But we pick up with Nick Fury, who is visiting the Punisher in prison, where we see Nick Fury trying to recruit the Punisher to join the Avengers team again. Except, of course, the Punisher hated it last time. But you have Nick Fury offer the Punisher the keys to every single prison cell, meaning that once the mission is complete, the Punisher can come back here and kill every single person who he thinks deserves to be killed. And so, of course, the Punisher says yes. Then we see Nick Fury go and meet up with Blade. And we saw Blade back in Ultimates Avengers 3, where he was put on the spotlight in that book because it was based around vampires. Now, the reason why we are seeing him is because, again, Nick Fury is trying to recruit Blade to join his crew, the Avengers. But just like the Punisher, Nick Fury has to offer him something that will make him want to join the team. And so you have Nick Fury tell Blade that he has Deacon Frost, the man who killed Blade's mother and who is responsible for Blade being half vampire since Blade's mother was pregnant when Deacon Frost came around. Then we get another page where we see that Hawkeye is going to join the team as well, which continues the big thing that Hawkeye is part of both the Avengers and the Ultimates team. But in this book, it seems like he is going to help the Avengers. Now, this leads into a big retcon in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Remember, we covered the Ultimate Iron Man Volume 1 and Volume 2 that was supposed to be the origin of Iron Man in this universe. Mark Miller retcons and says that the origin was basically a TV show in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. is huge because no one else really mentions that origin in their stories before this book. Now we see the Avengers team is trying to intercept Project Maximus, which is a different form of the super soldier serum. Now this is going to be a huge thing right here because what we see is this small old man and these other guys go into a private room to discuss the exchange, where of course you have the Avengers team move in and kill everybody except the old man. The problem is that when the Punisher thinks he has everything under control, we see the Punisher flying out the window. Wondering what in the world just happened to him, we find out that the old man is Tyrone Cash, the other Hulk in this universe we met in Ultimate Avengers 2. And he's the one trying to sell the Maximus project to someone else. And so with Tyrone Cash being here, we get to see him in the Avengers fight. Well, really, it is more of War Machine fighting against Tyrone Cash because War Machine is the only person who really stands a chance to go one-on-one with Tyrone Cash, who is classified as a Hulk. But this is just like all of those fights between Iron Man and Bruce Banner Hulk, with the Hulk usually winning the fight. And so just like this fight, you have Tyrone Cash being able to win the fight against War Machine. Except you have Blade step up and begins to use his powers to hypnotize Tyrone Cash, which of course makes him stop attacking, but it also makes Tyrone Cash turn back into his regular form. Now this is not the most important part of this section of the book. What really is important is that you have Tyrone Cash tell the Avengers that he is secretly working for Carol Danvers, meaning that she's the one on the inside selling secrets, and he says that she has been doing it for years. The book is basically making each team thinking that the other person is the traitor and selling American government secrets to other countries. Now we pick up with Thor. Now the reason why I'm covering this part is, for one, we see Jane Foster. This is actually not her first appearance in this universe. She first appeared in Ultimates number 4, I think for a hot second, and she was a nurse, but now she is living with Thor as his new girlfriend. The man has quickly moved on from Valkyrie, but the second thing I want to point out is that Thor is telling Jane Foster and us that all the clues are pointing to Nick Fury being behind the fact that the super soldier secrets are being sold to other countries, and he has been doing it for years. But now they say he could be behind the invasion that took place in Ultimates 2. And so this is pretty big if it's all true. But picking up with Iron Man, we see him right now trying to leave the hospital, where the story is representing that maybe his brain tumor is now gone. Either way, the man bought the hospital and he is getting ready to leave to go help the Ultimates deal with this Nick Fury problem. Now we do jump back over to Carol Danvers, where we see her dealing with the fact that the Triskelin is still in Iran and they are trying to move it back over to the United States. Also the fact that she is trying to figure out how to deal with the Nick Fury problem that is going on. Except this leads into Nick Fury appearing into the Triskelin, where Carol Danvers quickly begins to fire at him because she and the Ultimates believe that he is a traitor. Except of course this man came prepared. The dude has a force field to protect him from the bullets, but this man also has War Machine here as well, and his goal is to wipe everyone out right at the moment. Except you have Iron Man come in and save Gregory Stark and Carol Danvers at the very last second. And this is going to lead into Iron Man and War Machine fighting it out. Now remember that Rhodey hates Iron Man in this universe because Iron Man almost got him killed before. And so this is going to be a heated battle. Now the Avengers are here to capture Carol Danvers because remember, the Avengers were told that Carol Danvers is the traitor,
but also the Ultimates were told that Nick Fury is the traitor. Long story short, the Avengers have captured Carol Danvers, except they now have to get away with her but still fight off the Ultimates as well. And so we do get this big epic battle, but Nick Fury has to leave soon before Captain America or Thor shows up, and then bam, Captain America appears and he is ready to take down Nick Fury. And so with that happening, everybody is involved in this fight except two people. The Punisher is one of them, but he has his sniper pointed on Captain America waiting for a good shot. The second one is Thor, and no one on the Avengers team can truly go up against Thor, and so their goal is to wrap this up before Thor shows up. But this story actually leads into the death of the Spider-Man story. We are going to cover that story next week. But while everyone is fighting against each other, this leads into the Punisher taking a shot at Captain America. But right when Captain America was supposed to be shot, Spider-Man jumps in front of the bullet and he is shot. Like I said though, this story leads into the Ultimate Spider-Man story, the death of Spider-Man. Either way though, you have everyone realize that Spider-Man has been shot. A teenager has been shot, and people don't know what to do. Now this point right here, we're going to reference back to in the next few videos with the Ultimate Marvel Universe. But you have a few SHIELD agents come in and actually capture the Punisher and Nick Fury, where it seems that this whole thing is going to be wrapped up. But that is when we see that War Machine has flown by. War Machine had fired a missile down on the bridge, and so the fight began all over again between the two teams. Well, it never really stopped between the two teams, just between Captain America and the Punisher. Now this fight ends with the Avengers losing the battle and everyone being captured. Now some time has passed and we pick up with Gregory Stark, who is visiting the White House, where he continues to paint the picture that Nick Fury was the traitor and he was working with other countries that could lead to another invasion by other countries. Apparently, once the US is taken over, they were going to place Nick Fury into the White House. Now the president is not happy with the fact what happened in the middle of New York, because this was basically a civil war between the Avengers and the Ultimates, who both work for SHIELD. And so this made Carol Danvers look bad as well, but also Carol Danvers has brain damage and is being kept in a hospital, and so someone has to run SHIELD, and the president selects Gregory Stark to run SHIELD. Now this leads to the Ultimates chilling in Tony Stark's home, but this is more of a mixture of the Ultimates giving us an update of everything that had happened so far, which is not needed. The real big thing about this section is that Monica Chang is the only one on the Ultimates who does not believe that Nick Fury is a traitor, that to her, he is being set up. The question is, who in the world is doing it and why would they do it for? And so you had the story shift over to Gregory Stark and some SHIELD agents escorting Nick Fury, where it seems that they're going to kill him or lock him up. Either way, you have Nick Fury state that it was Gregory Stark who set up both Nick Fury and Carol Danvers. Now the reason why is because he is trying to give rogue states super soldiers to set up a pro-democracy. A lot of countries out there don't have democracy, and there are groups out there trying to change that. But his main goal is to have a Triskelion in other countries to kind of set up this umbrella effect, where all of these other countries would have to answer to Gregory Stark. But you have Nick Fury get shot by a SHIELD agent as a way to say that Nick Fury is not going to stay around to cause a problem for Gregory Stark. But then the story shifts back 5 days ago, and this is important because we pick up when the Avengers discovered that Carol Danvers could be a traitor because they were told by Tyrone Cash. Nick Fury realized that he needs a plan to stop the corruption that is going on in S.H.I.E.L.D. And so you have Nick Fury ask Tyrone Cash how he makes himself a Hulk, where you have Tyrone Cash go on to say that he has pills that make him turn into a Hulk. And so you have the Avengers take him to his house where they have him show where his pills are at. Once they have the pills, you have Nick Fury kill Tyrone Cash. And so the Avengers have pills that can turn them into Hulks. So when we jump back into the present day, that is what we see. Nick Fury, the Punisher, Hawkeye, and Blade all hulked out. It is freaking amazing to see them like this. But see, Gregory Stark is smarter than his brother Tony Stark. And so Gregory Stark built him a suit that can protect him and give him an edge to fight against superheroes, which of course he is fighting a team of heroes who have hulked out. But you have Gregory Stark push most of the Avengers off the helicarrier that was in the air, except he made sure to hold on to Nick Fury. Now we jump over to North Korea, where you have this country be the example of what I stated earlier, that there are countries out there who don't have democracy, but there are groups in those countries who are trying to build a democracy. And so what Gregory Stark did was give those small groups who are trying to change their country different super soldier stuff. For example, the Giant Men, but also the group in North Korea, they are being led by the Spider, and we met him in Ultimate Comics Avengers #1. And he is another creation of Gregory Stark. But again, Gregory Stark is trying to change the world that will lead to his umbrella effect. Now the Ultimates see what is happening in North Korea, and so the question is, why haven't they been sent out to deal with that problem? Where you have Gregory Stark tell his brother Tony and the rest of the Ultimates that they'll be breaking so many different international laws that they can't simply go out there and stop these rogue super soldiers in North Korea. And so you have the Ultimates wondering what they can do. Do they stop the freedom fighters, or do they fight with the freedom fighters to stop communists in that country? It is literally a big question on what they can do. And not even Captain America has a plan for what they can do. Except this leads into the big moment, because you have the Spider and all of these Giant Men just wreaking havoc through North Korea, where it seems that North Korea will be the first to fall under the Gregory Stark umbrella effect. But there is a bolt of lightning in the sky, and when the Spider looks over to see who it is, of course it is the Ultimates who are there. The Spider was told by Gregory Stark that the Ultimates could not step in because of international laws, except that is when you have Captain America tell the Spider that he knows that all of them are working for Gregory Stark, and they were told by the Avengers. And so we see the Avengers and the Ultimates have teamed up to take on this army of super soldiers in North Korea. I love this moment so much because you have the Spider as Captain America. What makes them think they stand a chance? With the Avengers and the Ultimates working together, they have a total of 9 people. Compared to the army of super soldiers in North Korea, it is over 100 of them. And you have Captain America tell them that they started using their powers recently. For the Ultimates and the Avengers, they have been doing this for years. And so they begin to do battle. But their goal is to wrap this up quickly before word gets out to other countries what is happening in North Korea. Also, Gregory Stark found out what the Ultimates and the Avengers have done, and so you have him leave Nick Fury to go deal with the Ultimates and the Avengers. And so you have Gregory Stark go to North Korea, who begins the process of beating down on the Ultimates and the Avengers, where you have Gregory Stark explain that he is trying to bring democracy to the world, but of course it is still him wanting to have the world under his control. Now the main point of this section is that we see Gregory Stark have picked up Thor's hammer and begin to use the hammer against the other heroes. Remember, only Thor should be able to pick up the hammer, but as we see here, Gregory Stark is able to. Now, while the heroes do get beaten down by Gregory Stark, you have Iron Man come in and smash Gregory Stark into the ground. It's about to begin a battle between the brothers. Now, this is really not a battle between the two brothers, because you have Gregory Stark actually begin the process of beating down on Tony, where you have Gregory talk some mad smack towards Tony about how Gregory is 10 times smarter than his brother, that if his brother Tony does not back off, Gregory will kill him. Now you have Tony tell Gregory that he forgot one thing Tony has put inside his suit, which was an EMP that takes out technology temporarily. And so you have Tony set off the EMP, which of course knocks everything out in the area. Now Tony tells the team that they only have 15 seconds to stop Gregory before his tech powers back up. And so Thor took that as a way to say, kill off Gregory. And so Thor kills Gregory Stark with a bolt of lightning. And Tony really meant was to knock out Gregory, not to kill him off, but now Gregory Stark is dead in Ultimate Marvel. Now we learned that in Iran, a similar thing happened out there, that North Korea was a way to keep the world's eye on that situation, while Iran also tries to install pro-democracy. We learned from the heroes from Great Britain that the Iran situation was handled better, that only a small group of superpower people stormed the city hall of Iran and forced the country to change things. But we also learned that the president and the American government had decided that Carol Danvers is going to be forced to retire as the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., handing things back over to Nick Fury. And the main reason why they decided to do this is because of the death of Spider-Man. A kid hero had died. And again, we are going to cover that in Ultimate Spider-Man, the Death of Spider-Man book. And so with that, and they almost had World War III, they forced her to quit. And so the story ends with the idea of Nick Fury being the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. Also the fact that now Iran is pro-democracy, and so with that, they're going to leave the Triskelion over there while they build a new one in the States. What's going on there, guys? I want to say thank you again if you watched the full video. If you did, thank you very much, because these videos meant a lot to me, because when I was a kid, Ultimate Marvel was one of my favorite things to read growing up. To share my passion for these comics with you guys, it means a lot. And so if you did watch the complete full story of the Ultimate Avengers, once again, thank you for doing that. But if you did like today's comic book video, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. I'll see you next time, guys. Later.